What is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Samsung versus iPhone. Which is better in 2026? Now, I'm well aware we're still waiting for the S26 Ultra. The Galaxy Z Trifold is going to be coming to the States here shortly, so this is a bit of an early assessment, but I want to give my early take, and I'll probably do this again late 2026 to give you my thoughts late 2026, which has been better as the year rolls on. So let's just start off getting into the year with the prices. Which is doing better with prices? Well, typically you'll find Samsung phones cost a bit more, especially at retail, but usually there's discounts, trade-ins, and carrier incentives. So a lot of the times I do feel that, you're going to get Samsung phones cheaper at the end of the day. That's just usually the way it rolls. If you're paying full price for a Samsung device, I feel like you're not doing it right. I'm just going to be straight up with you. Now, with the iPhone, it's a little bit harder to get this phone discounted, although it's not that hard. You can just trade your old iPhone in an Apple store and get it for less. But usually, there's not as many deals. They don't throw a lot of discounts on holidays because they know that people are going to buy this phone either way, in that of the iPhone series. So the iPhone definitely, to me, tends to, while it doesn't always retail higher than some of the Samsung phones, it still tends to usually cost more because discounts are just not as heavy. Now, there is a caveat to that though here, and that is that the iPhone will actually resell for more and faster. So if you're selling it privately, you're likely going to get a sale on this much quicker. You're going to get much more money. Now, there's a lot of vendors that'll buy out your phones, easily right away. But those are usually going to give you less than a private sale. But I think you'll have a little bit of a slower sale on a Samsung device versus the Apple device. But you'll eventually get it sold, just probably not as quick or for as much. So resale is still going to go to Apple there. Now, which is better in design? They still have here in 2026 the same rectangle versus the curved kind of feel. We're using these two, the S25 Ultra and the Max, as the examples here, but you'll see it across the lineup, whether it's the Plus, iPhone, the Air, the smaller ones. It still has the same general shape. Samsung phones, though, when you go to the Plus, you go to the regular S25, they have a little bit more curves. This one a little bit more curvy than the S24 Ultra and the S25 Ultra here, flat edges, but still that rectangular feel. Now, when it comes to design, it's more of a personal preference. So I would probably call this tie here. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. That really does come down to personal take. I do have to say that the iPhone with this unibody here was actually smoother and nice to hold than some previous versions with flat edges, a little bit sharper on those previous versions. The Samsung, not quite as smooth, but it is a bit more grippy than the iPhone 17 Pro Max. I actually would drop the 17 Pro Max much easier than the Samsung phone. But one thing I like about the Samsung is that it does have a nice kind of like balanced weight to it. It's titanium, it's light, but it also feels relatively well balanced. So it's pretty good in that department here. Whereas the iPhone feels a little bit more chunkier and heavier, especially on the Max side of things. So that's kind of how I feel about them when it comes to design. I also like that the punch hole is much smaller than Android competitors on the Galaxy and way smaller than that of the Dynamic Island. However, there's no real interaction with that, and you can actually interact with that punch hole more even on a OnePlus phone, kind of similar to Dynamic Island. But at the end of the day, looks-wise, still going to come down to preference. Some people might like this two-tone. Some people might like the cleaner, just vertical camera array over there. It really is pretty much a tie. Now, which is better in display? And I'm going to say on paper, the Samsung is better. It has sharper text up close. You're going to find incredibly sharp text on this phone. It also has better anti-reflective properties, and it's just more vivid. Like if you see these hand in hand, you're going to think the Samsung display looks more vivid for sure. And if you go to advanced settings, changing RGB values and tweaking that vivid can get it so vivid, it'll just like pop off the screen over here. So that's pretty much Samsung all day right here. And features still going to go to Samsung. The ability to change your screen resolution, Samsung is just better on paper and technical specs than the iPhone is. However, not in one area, and that's brightness, because the iPhone 17 Pro Max and recent iPhones are hitting 3,000 nits now. I think in the actual real world use, I like Apple's calibration better. I think their displays are currently just better calibrated. They have like just about the right level of saturation and color, and you don't really have to tweak it because they've nailed the color calibration. Now you can also say that, well, the iPhone doesn't take advantage of display. We'll get in that in a minute, but I'm just talking about pure quality. It is 460 ppi, and they really haven't changed that resolution in several years. I think dating back for like more than 4 or 5 years. So that resolution's a bit dated, but it is brighter, it is better tuned, thinner bezels than ever before on this current iPhone right here. And if you look closely, they look nearly as thin, if not maybe thinner than the Galaxy S25 Ultra there, but the anti-reflective properties on those angles still better on Samsung, but the iPhone is brighter. So this is pretty much a tie. On paper, specs wise, the Samsung is better. When it comes to calibration and brightness, the iPhone is better. So when it comes to taking advantage of display, there's no question. Samsung will allow you split screen, will allow you pop view, will allow you to do essentially anything you want with that display, even turn it into a landscape orientation, which I've been waiting for Apple to bring back to the iPhone, and they still haven't done that. They haven't really done anything with that. So the iPhone feels like a little bit of a waste of display space on the display sometimes. Now, when it comes to software, which one is better? And I'm going to say that it's a tie again. And here's why. I know a lot of people are going to be like, no, Apple's better. It looks nicer. Nobody wants that Samsung. You know, some people are going to say nobody wants that Apple. They're boring, whatever. You know, people got their opinions, but I think it's a tie for the reasons that they have different strengths that the other one doesn't have. Apple has more consistent updates and more, I would say, polish. It just looks a little bit more in sync with all of their products, whereas the Samsung looks pretty much in sync until you get over to Windows on the ecosystem over there. Generally, though, you know, the iPhone is still going to have your standard iOS 26 visual intelligence. You're going to get your AI stuff. You're going to get your customizations, your liquid glass, your icons that kind of match up very nicely here. Easy customization, core app library. Layout is pretty clean, simple, and visually it is pretty premium looking. The thing about Samsung, though, is that they still have way more features, customization, productivity features, S Pen on board, and it's much smoother and faster than before. Some people do think the software doesn't look as nice, though, and that's really up for debate. This is One UI 8. I have 8.5 on my base S25. That's going to be coming soon to pretty much all. I'm waiting on the official for this S25 Ultra, though. But generally, their updates are a little bit more slower to roll out. They're a little bit more fragmented because they're rolling them out globally. But still, you know, it's solid now compared to before. But Samsung just has so much more feature set. So the good lock, the theming, the Android combined with the Galaxy, I mean, it can be overwhelming for some people. But if you do want to go to town on your icons, you want to go to town on your AOD, I mean, you can go really deep on the customization here, and that's just scratching the surface. If you go over to Good Lock, you have many different features within here, which you can definitely make it even better, including your own pen changes for S Pen usage. Going to theme park, you can do a bit more in there. Whereas with the iPhone, they do have some things as well within the App Store, but it's just not as in depth. So I'm going to call it a tie because they have different things that, you know, give you the strength over the other. So it's kind of hard to say one is better than the other in 2026 in that area. So when it comes to performance, it's kind of a tie again. The iPhone tends to perform better in the single core CPU, Samsung better in the multi-core, generally seems to get higher benchmarks in 3D Mark, this one higher in Geekbench 6. The CPUs are both extremely fast, and day to day it's really hard to tell any real difference between them, but the real difference comes down to app optimization. I feel like developers still spend a great amount of time making their apps really nice for the iPhone, even though, you know, Android does have all the core stuff you're used to. It's not really gonna slow you down in any which way. You know, it just seems like some of the apps look a little bit nicer on the iPhone still for some reason. If we go over here to profile, you'll see right here, pretty much the same. It's faster scrolling there. But I feel like the Samsung has a little bit of a snappier feel to it day to day. The iPhone's a little bit more visually bouncy. You know, you see right there bouncing through here. Like those icons right there just kind of bounce right there. If we go on here, doesn't always feel 120 hertz all the time. So while CPU will always outbench Samsung on the Geekbench, in reality, both have vapor chambers, both feel incredibly fast. So it's kind of a wash there. They're both pretty much in the same area of performance. I do think if you like to do video editing though, and you want to like edit on your phone and stuff like that, I would probably pick the iPhone. They tend to have a few more social media apps as well. For example, they got some AI stuff that's usually going to come to the iPhone first. I don't mean AI inbuilt features. I mean like certain AI clipping apps and stuff like that. Some video editors might come first to the iPhone because they know there's more people, likely creatives, going to download that and use that. So there are certain app advantages to both. But generally, the performance kind of a wash here. Now, one area that's not a wash is battery life. The iPhone is absolutely easily better than that Samsung over there. And that's not just in this one. It also goes for the base 17, the base S25. The S25 Plus is better than the Air, but probably not better than the regular 17 Pro. So the battery life is the standby time. The lasting battery life of this phone is just better than Samsung devices. I don't know what it is with the Galaxy. It just seems to never beat the competition in actual use to me. I feel like the OnePlus 15 is significantly longer lasting than both of these, but way longer lasting than the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. So Samsung needs to step it up in the battery. Like seriously, they are really falling behind in this department for longevity of how long that battery lasts. It does get through a day, but for this size of a phone, it should be going more than a day and a half or so. The standby time's still not great on this device either. It drains even when you're not using it too much. You have to take advantage of some of the modes, but to me, this is an all-day phone. Galaxy, the iPhone is a day and a half, almost 2 days for a lot of people. So it's just not comparison here with these devices. The iPhone is just better in 2026 at this current time. So I want to see both of them go silicon carbon, but Samsung needs to step it up on their next Galaxy S26 Ultra with the battery life. Now, when it comes to camera, I'm going to go with Apple. Reason why is I think that they have better social media photos. I think they have more consistency across the cameras. They kind of don't throw in the fluff. They kind of just give you what's going to be sharp, what's going to be good, and they leave it in there. They don't give you 8K on here, but you do get the log just like on a Samsung, especially on the Pros here. And you'll get 4K. Hold on. Let's switch this up real quick. You will get 4K at 120. The front-facing camera is extremely wide. You can also do log on a front-facing camera. Photos are consistent. The social media posting is extremely good for the iPhone. 48 megapixel across, so the 17 Pro Max is basically another 13 Pro Max when it comes to the consistency of the cameras. You just always get really good tones and everything, dynamic range. Over here on the Samsung, also very strong. It's the more versatile system. I think if people like tweaking their photos, they like options, Samsung is no joke. This one is ahead of the curve. But I think generally they go for more features and all that stuff than beating everybody. You know, they're trying to beat you with all these features. But when I actually look at the results, especially when I zoom in further, or if I look at the soft looking results sometimes I get, I do think that the Samsung, maybe it's because it's using the same sensors. It's using a similar sensor it's been using for a little while. Could be the reason. But it's still better than most of the competition. I just don't think it's beating the results we get from iPhone. The people photos, the group photos, the social media stuff, it just looks better on iPhone. I think that's what most users are using here in 2026. So I want to see Samsung change up a little bit with the sensors, make them a little bit more consistent and a little bit different than some of the 200, the same, because they've been using kind of the same sensors for a long time. I just want to see them upgrade and make everything a little bit better than it's been over the past couple of years. Which is better with innovation? Well, I only got to bring in one phone to show you that, and that's Samsung. I mean, Z Fold 7, you can't do that on any iPhone, not yet anyway. Also, we're going to have a triple folding Galaxy Z Trifold. So, yeah, innovation, we can't even talk here because Apple kind of just refines, polish, gives you the same thing. Refines and polish, makes it bigger, adds a camera, upgrades a couple features. You buy it again, you love it, you move on. And you buy it again, and then they make the same thing. So we're going to see a folding iPhone is going to be a game changer for Apple. But right now, early 2026, there's no question. Samsung is more innovative for sure. Although the S25 Ultra is more of their safe choice phone, still they are more innovative, I would say, overall. But they are taking away features, which is annoying too, like no Bluetooth on the S Pen, no micro SD card expansion. I mean, they've been taking away features on some of these devices over the years, so kind of not happy with that. It seems like they're going in the wrong direction in that area sometimes, but still, when we look at the willingness to take risks with Z Fold, and it paid off because the Z Fold now is really thin, really nice. I got a case on it. It's still super thin. It's been very durable. It survives drops and everything. It's a pretty strong device. And, now Apple is going to be probably jumping on board with that. So it's not even close in that department yet. Anyway, you can say also Galaxy AI was ahead of the curve. It's not even in beta. It actually works very well. Apple Intelligence doing pretty decent, but you do have a little bit more here for the Galaxy over the iPhone. So I got to give it to them with innovation. It's not close. Apple, I'm going to give it to its storage, though. You can get the iPhone 17 Pro Max with 2 terabytes, the S25 Ultra, 1 terabyte. So this one is a very, very strong storage option, but it's going to cost you a huge amount more than any of the other storage tiers for that 2 terabyte option. So do keep that in mind. When it comes to signal strength and reception in 2026, the Samsung has a slight edge to me. It still gives a little bit better performance in this department, but the iPhone has come a long way using Qualcomm modems on board. It isn't giving me really any issues either. But the Samsung, I found when I'm in certain areas, I'm still getting like 4 bars, whereas I'll get like 2 or 3. On the iPhone, still strong, still 5G working, but sometimes it drops down to LTE faster than this one does. So I give a slight edge to reception on Samsung for calls. Phone call quality is pretty similar. We do have very loud speakers on both, so that's not really a big issue on either of them. And when it comes to special features, it's kind of probably Samsung here. You do have DeX on board. So Samsung does give you DeX. It gives you S Pen, which a lot of people say they don't need, but it's there. So, it's still a feature that matters to some people, especially artists and people who want to draw and things like that on their phones. And, the Samsung device does have some emergency features as well. But the iPhone does have the emergency SOS via satellite, texting via satellite. So, we do have ourselves some nice special features here. Display port on the bottom on the iPhones, but, they do have slower charging just by a little bit. But both of these need the up and fast charging because the competition is beating both of them in that department. Which is better when it comes to the ecosystem of products? And I'm going to have to call that one to the iPhone. And the reason why is one separator for me, and that's the Mac. We do have Apple Watch, which is also to me faster and just a little bit more refined than the Galaxy Watch. The Galaxy Watch is awesome with all its features and stuff, but the Apple Watch is just classic. It's kind of like the iPhone of smartwatches. Like, it was the first one to really take the catapult the smartwatch market like to where it is today. So, it's kind of similar. So, but the key separator for me is the Mac. You have, the Mac and the iPad, both with the same type of icons, both with similar software, playing nicely with all the products. The seamless syncing and similarities amongst the Apple ecosystem are just not matched by Samsung, in my honest take. They do have a really close look when it comes to mobile devices, including Galaxy tablets, Galaxy phones, Galaxy watches, and buds. But once I hit that and I do have the Galaxy Book, I have the Pro 360, but once I hit the Galaxy Book, I'm like, this doesn't feel like the other devices. This feels like a Microsoft product. So that's where the key separator to me always lies, is the Mac. And I think it's going to stay that way for a while. Now, which is better in resale value in 2026? And I'm going to tell you that's clearly, as we discussed earlier, the iPhone. You're going to sell this for a lot more later on. That's just the bottom line. When you get rid of this phone, people are going to jump on it, especially that cosmic orange. People are going to want this phone even later. It's just got that look, like it's vibrant. It's a large phone, big battery. People are going to want to pick one up even when it's a year or two old, because it's still going to be a nice product to pick up. Samsung, they'll probably always want to go with the cheaper, newer one because they can get a brand new phone with a big screen, and they might pick up one of these older used devices, but generally you'll get a discount on new Samsung, so you don't always have to go get an aging one over here. So which is better overall at the start of 2026? Well, if you kind of look back at everything I talked about, it was kind of like 6 wins to Apple, 4 to Samsung, 3 ties. So I think Apple is edging out Samsung a little bit when it comes to overall, what it provides to the customer. The Samsung as itself stands, I gave this the best phone of 2025, and I think this phone is still the best phone if we look at spec for spec, sheet on a sheet, And when I look at it, it's more fun to use than this. It does more. I gave it that award because I just find it to just do more than this phone over here. It doesn't mean I generally think it's better for the customer. I do think that the iPhone is better to start out the year for these slabs. I'm not talking about innovation. I'm not talking about the Z Fold. I'm not talking about customization. I'm just talking about battery life. I'm talking about brighter displays. That's going to go over here probably until the S26 Ultra comes out. That's why I said it can change. Cameras for social media. I just feel like the things people use and what they need out of their phone for daily usage, unless you're specific cases where you have to have productivity, split screen decks, where you're actually using those features. I think just general customers, I think the iPhone kind of is providing a few more of those things that just regular users need right now. Samsung can get there really easily just by improving the battery just a bit more, doing a little bit better with the cameras instead of giving us similar cameras we've been having for a couple of years. We're basically there as well with the Samsung device. So it's super close. It's always hard to make these videos because they're so tightly compared. But I think Apple's a little bit in the lead to start 2026, but that's probably going to change just in a couple months here or a month or so when that S26 Ultra makes its arrival. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe for more. Can't wait for that comparison. I hope you stick around for that. Thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.